Hundreds of people are expected to turn out for a vigil for Zara Alina this afternoon in East London. The 35-year-old was minutes from her front door when she was attacked and killed last weekend. The vigil will take the form of a silent walk that traces the route she'd been taking. Holidaymakers are being warned of more travel disruption this summer as airlines rush to rework their travel schedules. But British Airways has responded to reports its services at Heathrow are expected to bear the brunt of new cancellations by saying it welcomes the new measures. The airline says an amnesty on takeoff and landing slots will help it provide certainty to customers.
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to continue towards Thames Lane A355.
The UK's first ever Pride Parade. All 6 surviving Prime Ministers have written articles praising campaigners who've changed attitudes towards LGBTQ+ rights. Benjamin Butterworth is from the I newspaper, which published them.
Given that this is 50 years since the first Pride March, when the country was
Keep right
against things like gay rights, and for much of that time, Theresa May voted against equal rights for gay and lesbian people. However, she's written a very honest piece where she says she regrets her opposition for much of that time. And I think to her credit, when she was Home Secretary or the Prime Minister, she was very supportive of a lot of pro-LGBT measures.
Denzel Washington is among 17 famous faces to be awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor that can be bestowed in the US. Gymnast Simone Biles is also on the list announced by the White House. The weather unsettled with rain spreading eastwards across England and Wales, remaining dry in the southeast, sunny spells and showers in the north and west, a high of 22 Celsius. From Global's newsroom, I'm Rebecca Cook.
Okay, everybody. We need to...
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London, Heathrow Airport.
Urgently need filling.
But we can refer people to our new practice when it's ready.
Indeed can help her find great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Screen for quality candidates using Indeed assessments to make sure they have the experience your job needs. To start hiring, visit Indeed.com/try today.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Matthew Wright.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Yes, indeed. Morning, all morning, ladies and gents. As you just heard, it's Matthew Wright in for Andrew Castle this weekend. I don't know. I can only assume he's busy Wimbledoning. Not much of a tennis fan myself, but I'm looking forward to day 2 of England's test match with India. That's still a way away right now. Lots of really very interesting talking points to share with you today, as you might expect. I'm going to be having a word later about the Met Police and today's vigil for Zara Alina. But I think we can only start with one story. Tory sleaze. Our Prime Minister Boris Johnson may be a crook, I can say that without fear of libel, but having scraped through a vote of no confidence, he insists he's going nowhere. The more pressing question today is whether his former Deputy Whip Chris Pincher should abandon his career as an MP and do something more suited to his character instead. I don't know what that would be, but it certainly shouldn't be in politics. Pincher lost the Tory whip yesterday after fessing up to improper behaviour towards 2 men at the Carlton Club. This is a Tory private members venue. Apparently he was drunk, so drunk according to witnesses he could barely stand, so the story goes. So Pincher, there's MPs that have briefed against him. He's also, as I said, fessed up himself to Boris Johnson. Still has a job as an MP. He's still taking home just over £84,000 a year. And the story, I would suggest, gets murkier still when we remember that Pincher has resigned as a whip before, after allegations emerged of him harassing a young party worker while wearing a dressing gown. You may remember the phrase, like a pound shop Harvey Weinstein. Should he quit his Tamworth seat? Well, that of course would trigger another by-election, Neil Parish style, another opportunity for voters to pass judgment on Boris Johnson's government. Has Boris Johnson moved too slowly on this? Should he have really demanded that this individual goes and stops disgracing his government? Or has he done the right thing in trying to follow due process? I'm joined first by Harry Phipps, a columnist at Conservative Home. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well at home. 0345 6060 973 is the number. Good morning, Harry.
Morning.
Were you satisfied with how Boris Boris Johnson has addressed the Pincher issue this time?
Yes, I think it was done in the correct way, because the sort of the threshold for Chris Pincher resigning from the government, I think, was that by his own admission, he behaved like an idiot, embarrassed himself, got very drunk, and so that I think was the right threshold for him resigning from the government. I mean, then I think in terms of suspending the whip and the question of whether he should continue to be an MP, that arose because then there was a complaint to the Independent Parliamentary Watchdog, and that in other words, it's not just him behaving like an idiot, but the allegation that he was behaving in a way that was threatening, intimidating to staff, and so I think that's obviously. There's still the presumption of innocence.
Yes.
Still the due process, but I think that was. In fact, I think it would be difficult to have done it in a different. I mean, that's understood as the sort of correct process for sort of escalating these things.
Is it? I mean, you referred to the threshold. I mean, one of the problems I've got as a journalist is trying to ascertain where the threshold is for resigning as an MP, because the behaviour of some MPs, frankly, is appalling. And I struggle. I've been talking to female colleagues here. They struggle to get their heads around exactly what's going on in the Palace of Westminster. And I just. Is this? I mean, if Neil Parish has to go for looking at porn, do we feel that Pincher could stay despite the fact that he stands accused of allegedly groping two individuals?
Well, I think if he's found, I mean, details really matter. I mean, once the forward well, obviously that would be a criminal matter, and that would be pretty straightforward. But you've got a lower threshold, haven't you? If you're sort of human resources inappropriate behaviour, that it might not be something that the police would get involved in as a criminal offence, but it still might be that it's unacceptable in the workplace, and it's more complicated for MPs than for most of us, because there's a blur between their personal lives, social lives, and their professional lives. And obviously, this was happening outside but obviously it was still, I think, realistically, something that was part of his role as an MP.
What about the decency element though, Harry? I mean, aren't we supposed to look at MPs as high-standing members of society? I mean, it's quite difficult when the Prime Minister himself, I believe, stands accused by the Sunday Times columnist Charlotte Edwards of groping her, something that he denied. She says that he squeezed her on the thigh. He denied it, but we've got similar allegations there against the Prime Minister who's got to act against Pincher.
Yes, I think one question that we have to decide
this is exactly the point. Is I don't know anybody that behaves like this. Okay, so in fact, a friend of a friend wrote somebody I knew, and we had no more to do with them. So the standards of behaviour that I see within my social circle and talking to colleagues here at LBC Towers within their social circle, well, it's much. We behave like decent individuals. We're not being held to a higher or lower standard account. We just don't go around drunkenly groping people.
Well, I think he's acknowledged he was drunk. I mean, the groping, that's the thing that's disputed, and and the details about just what then it was the groping. So that, but I think in terms of necessarily getting drunk and embarrassing yourself, I mean that would be something that many people would have gone through and felt embarrassed and ashamed, but would not have ended up losing their job over if it was unrelated to their workplace. Now, it may be that it's fair to say that MPs should be held to a higher standard than the rest of us. I mean, they obviously have much more scrutiny than the rest of us if they do misbehave, and I think that's an argument we can have. But obviously, then if is too severe for MPs, then you do discourage people from going into politics. And so that, I mean, I think there is a balance.
I was going to say, Harry, I think that's exactly it, isn't it? It's a balance because it cuts two ways. There's probably be plenty of people right now that would never consider a career in politics because they don't fancy suffering all manner of untoward behaviour from their parliamentary colleagues across the political divide. It has to be said, there's been appalling behaviour from politicians on all sides. Harry, lovely talking to you. I'm going to go straight to Ben Habib, if I may, former Brexit Party MEP for London. Good morning to you, Ben. Do you think the Prime Minister has acted quickly enough with Chris Pincher?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Chris Pincher admitted that he had behaved badly, and then there was that sort of period where would he have the whip removed or would he not have the whip removed? He resigned as junior whip, as distinct from having the whip removed. But will he have it removed or not? And there was definitely hesitation there. There was a hesitant Prime Minister not getting ahead of the problem. And I started off agreeing.
Can I ask, just it's been suggested by the papers that as that witnesses were there, that witnesses started to brief against Pincher, so it's possible to play fair by the Prime Minister here that the picture was changing over that 24-hour period.
Yeah, but absolutely, and we still don't know what groping means. What does groping mean? But if it's a high enough bar.
In 2 miles, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not he stands down as an MP is really for his own conscience at this stage. I think there are processes that can be brought into play if he's accused of having committed a crime or misled Parliament or all the rest of it. But right now, that isn't in the frame. That's not in the process of being judged. But I think the minute he resigned as junior whip, he had to have the whip removed. Personally, I don't see how you can say I'm not worthy of holding a government job, but I'm worthy of being a member of the Tory party. And it's a graduation and a fineness of difference that I find impossible to put my finger on.
What about the judgment of our Prime Minister here? As I alluded in my introduction, Chris Pincher has stood accused before of improper behaviour. He described the story as something he didn't recognise, but nevertheless, all the papers, the Times is running heavily today on rumours about Pincher had circulated for a long period of time. Having seen, one might argue, the writing on the wall the first time with Pincher resigning as a whip, was Boris Johnson unwise to put him forward as a deputy chief whip?
Well, do you know who he tried to sort last time? A chap called Alex Story. He's like 6'5" and as broad as he is tall. So I'm not sure what Pincher thought he was up to. He wasn't going to succeed with Alex. Anyway,
that's not the point on assault, is it? It's not about the height or the resistance. It's about the.
That's digressing. But this is a sign of a government that's becoming increasingly complacent. 12 years of Conservative government. A lot of them have had their jobs for a long time. The threat of being, chucked out by the electorate in their minds has receded. I think it's become an ever-present. It's ever-present and increasing dramatically so. And the Prime Minister, look, a fish rots from the head down, doesn't it?
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
He misled Parliament. We have a Prime Minister who has been issued a fixed penalty notice and therefore has, been committed of a crime, if that's the right word. These are all bars which historically would have resulted in people resigning.
Exit at junction 3.
Difficult to see why he hesitated slightly over Pincher.
One more question, and I've been struggling with this one. It's really inspired by.
In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312.
Major, who was at 7-8 years in power, as being a sort of, I don't know how to say it, a sort of a conventional man has a fair. It's a sort of Sunday papers, old school Sunday paper stuff. And she contrasts it with the nature of the sleaze that is coming out of the Tory party now. And you've got, unnamed Tory MP arrested on suspicion of rape, unnamed Tory MP accused of using date rape drugs on 4 individuals, including a fellow Tory MP who claimed to have woken up finding his nipples being licked. Owen Patterson, the egregious lobbying. Matt Hancock, carrying on while breaking his own rules. It's just the nature of the sleaze now. Fleet Street Foxes, it just feels stronger, harder, that bit more repulsive. And I just wondered if you would agree with that and why that might be the case.
Well, I mean, I completely agree, and I think the standards to which these MPs are held is very low. I completely disagree with Harry that they're held to a higher standard. You know, I run a business, a professional fund management business. I'm not
Exit the roundabout onto the parkway.
behave the way Pincher did or Parrish did. I wouldn't find any of my members of staff in the office watching porn.
If any of you,
out of their ear.
if any of your staff
Continue on the parkway for 1 mile.
pounds in dodgy PPE equipment and fraud, would you also have got rid of them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would too.
It's a sum of money. You know, so this is, and the parallels with the nature of government are strong. And we saw how it's sort of death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it? The electorate just get fed up. It's drip, 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 and they can't get it right. There's a sense of entitlement, cronyism. The Conservative Party has gone wrong, and it needs to get itself right.
Well,
The more it backs people like Parrish and Pincher and the Prime Minister, the deeper it gets into this problem.
Will a new leader sort it out?
They need a new leader. I do think they need a new leader. They need a clean brush. And they also, well, if you don't have Johnson, who would you have? Really? 350 Conservative Party MPs, and they can't think of someone worthy of leading them? Well, that's a testimony to how awful the party's become, if they haven't got a single potential leader amongst that lot.
Ben Hovey, pleasure talking to you. It's a really interesting. I have to say that last bit of the debate we just had there about the nature of the sleaze, I find most interesting because maybe you agree with what Ben said. Maybe there's a truth to that. I just can't quite get my head around it. I don't know why I feel the sleaze is so much worse. Maybe they just feel they can get away with it with impunity. Love to hear your thoughts, of course. 0345 6060 973 is the number. You listen to Matthew Wright on LBC.
Boris Johnson's judgments being questioned following his delay in suspending the former Deputy Chief Whip Chris Pincher from the Conservatives. A vigil will be held in East London later for Zara Alina, who was killed last weekend. Greater Anglia is urging customers not to use its services today because of a strike by train drivers. The weather dry in the southeast with showers elsewhere, a high of 22 Celsius.
BBC Travel, I'm Claire Sharp. Price celebrations in London today mean there will be closures coming into place. Pall Mall East already closed.
In a quarter of a mile of Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit and stay on the parkway A312.
In Collieswood, Christchurch Road, that's been closed in both directions between Priory Road and High Street at Collieswood. That's because of an unsafe building. Lots of buses on diversion as a result. On the Tube, Central Line has cancellations and severe delays. And on District Line, Merchant House Station is closed. Also, because of strike action, there's no Greater Anglia services running from Liverpool Street to Cambridge, Hertford East or South End Victoria, and a severely reduced service across the Greater Anglia network.
This is LBC.
Everyone's got an ex-doppelganger, someone that looks like you, might even shop like you. And we both know how to make the most.
Exit the roundabout onto the parkway.
The Nectar app.
Continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
I've got some Sainsbury's.
So with the app, there's also personalised discounts and bonus points on products you buy most at Sainsbury's. Plus hundreds of brands to discover and collect points on, like eBay, Esso and Just Eat. What? Nectar. Get the app, get more. Personalised discounts require smart shop. Exclusions apply. For full T's and C's, visit nectar.com/app-terms.
Got a parcel to send? Do it the easy way with Royal Mail. Go online, buy your postage, save yourself some cash, and arrange for your postie to collect it. Don't worry if you can't print your label. Your helpful postie can bring that for you. They'd love to stay and chat too, but, you know, parcels don't collect themselves. Click, save, we collect. Visit send.royalmail.com. Savings based on online parcel prices compared to over-the-counter prices. Exclusions apply.
We are 8. Reclaim your power.
T's and C's apply. Redeem through PayPal. Fees charged.
We are 8. Get money in your pocket. Download the app today.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
I think she's got it.
My Fair Lady is in full bloom at the...
quarter of a mile, turn right onto Roslyn Avenue.